Okay, everybody, today what we're going to work on is something that's a little bit different from UE4 to UE5. The basics of everything's going to be pretty much the same, but there are some little idiosyncrasies that we're working around right now. What we're going to do is create a pickup and move kind of grab so you can move things around your space. And I'm finding that we are going to probably have some small little buggy bits to deal with some of the features that we're working with in Unreal Engine 5. But I've got some workarounds already. And first off, I want to show you how to do this first one, the pick up and grab. And I'm going to probably improve upon this one as the class periods go by because right now it gives us the base functionality we need, but it is making it a little bit difficult in some aspects. You can stack some things, you can move them around pretty easily, but it's a little cumbersome, so I'm probably going to get you guys started with something that will give you the functionality. Also show you how to work around some of the issues that come up with this now in Unreal Engine 5 that I'm sure are going to get fixed, but for right now there's a workaround that I've figured out. And that'll probably be the case with some of these things. So let's go ahead and check those out. So first off, let me go in and I'm just going to delete everything that made this work because we want to rebuild it, right? Okay, so what I want to do is we're going to do something called a line trace by channel. Now what this does, you probably saw back in this level, I was able to make these little red lines come out that had some green lines coming off of that, and that was the line trace. And what that does is it goes out and projects away from the character, your player character usually, and checks to see, is there something there? Okay, and these can be used for a lot of different types of sensors. In this case, we're going to just be shooting out a line in front of us to check and see, is there something there that we can interact with that's also simulating physics? Okay, so with that in mind, what we have to do is get a physics handle. Okay, we're going to use a physics handle to grab a hold of things. And anybody who's worked with Unreal Engine 4 previously, this will probably seem fairly familiar. Okay, let me go up to the add, and we're going to add in a physics handle. And if I can get my pinky to work here, there we go. Physics handle is right there. You don't want to add more than one, really, you just need one. But once you get that put in, then we're going to start working with it. So I'm going to go ahead and right click right here, and I'm going to have this work whenever I use my left mouse button. You could use a key on the keyboard, could be your interaction key possibly, but for myself I'm going to use the left mouse button. And there we go. Go ahead and zoom in, and from here what we want to do is line trace by channel. Okay, now the channel part that kicks in here is with visibility or camera. And as we look into some different parts of actors that we have, for instance, let me go into what we have here with the sphere. If I go in and I look at collisions, okay, if I look at these collision presets right here, we probably will see some of these collisions right here. No, we'll probably have to go into a blueprint. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Here's our third person character. And to kind of check on some of the collision components of the capsule that we have here, we're going to go down into our collisions area. See, there's physics, there's collisions. Okay, let's take a look here. Now you'll notice that we have trace responses right here, visibility, and camera. So as we move a little bit further into this, we'll find that we can make different collisions interact with different actors. Different types of blueprints can interact with different types of collisions. We have the option for ignore, overlap, and block here. In this case, this one is going to be ignored on the visibility channel. That's our capsule component currently. If we wanted it to give us some feedback, we'd use overlap instead. We'd check this. We'd go into collision preset. We'd go into something like custom, and we would convert that over to an overlap here. But we really don't want our trace to look at ourselves. We don't want it to see ourselves. So we're just going to leave it as ignore for right now. And that means we're not going to get any response from that trace when we send it out. Okay? So first off, we're going to need to go back to our line trace by channel. We need to give it a starting position. So what we'll do with that is we're going to get our world location. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag off of this, get world location. Okay, and for this one, we can probably just use, we'll have to have a point, since we're using a third person character, we'll have to have a point where it's something similar to where our camera is looking. And since we have a person in front of us, we're probably going to have to add on a little something. So I add on one called a grab point right here, and I've put it under the follow camera. So if we go back to the viewport here, that's this space right here. Now what this grab point is, it's a scene component. So I just go up here to add, do a scene component, and I can add in that scene and then put it to where, about to where I would expect it to be. Now since I've married it up with the follow camera right here, this is just kind of projecting it out in front of it. Okay, so this is something we might end up changing a little bit later, just because of some of the idiosyncrasies currently with UE5. But you want to go ahead and add a scene component in so we can use that to establish where we want our line trace to start from. Okay, so this can be anywhere in here. You could have it start in the chest. You could have it even start behind them if you wanted to. But probably the easiest thing to do is just have the scene component right in the middle of our character right now. Okay, going back in here, we're going to get our world location. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get that, and that'll be our starting point. That'll be where we start from. And then from this as well, we want to see which way we're facing. So we're going to get forward vector now. That'll tell us which way we're facing. And so we know which way to project this line trace out from. Okay, and then to actually project it out a good distance, we're going to multiply this value. Okay, now this one's a little bit different than previous types of multiply that we would get. Right now it already gives us a vector times a vector, and that's not necessarily what we want. So what you got to do is click on this pin down here, right click on it, and convert that pin. In this case, we're just going to multiply it times an integer. Okay? So we're going to have that project out about 300 units in front of us. Okay? And then we're going to add this together with this vector up here so we get the total length of the line and also get the direction we're going to put it up. So go ahead and do a plus there. That's easier. There we go. Okay, and I'm just going to put this one at the bottom. I'm going to add this one to the top just so it's kind of easier to follow. And we'll plug that into end right there. Okay, so essentially this is our line trace by channel. It'll already kind of work. So we can just kind of test this out now. We can just go in here to the draw debug type, and I want to just do this for duration. This will just do it for a short period of time. That'll be established right here with the draw time is 5. The trace color will be red, and if we get a good hit, it'll turn to green. So we'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and test this out. So I can take this into this level, and I can start shooting little line traces out. You'll notice they come out right where I put the scene component. Okay, so you'll see that if I was to kind of look through this character and think about where my camera is, like my camera is actually up here, so this line trace is going to shoot out the back of this character. And we're starting to get some good responses. See right here, this sphere is rolling around, so it got a good hit there on that green. So you'll see that when it hits, you'll see that little red square, and then the green will denote that it got a good hit. Okay, so we got a line trace set up. It's working just fine. Okay, next thing we want to do is we're going to add in the grab, the actual physics grab. Okay, so to do that, what we want to do is we want to make sure we're actually touching something. So you can fire that line trace off and it won't touch a thing. And what'll happen is you'll get a null error. It'll just say like, oh no, there's nothing out there. I have no idea what you're talking about. And it'll start throwing you little errors back. So to check that, what we want to do is we're going to run a branch out of here. And we're going to check and see the return value right there. Make sure that we are getting a return. Okay, if we're not getting a return, then we haven't touched anything, we haven't hit anything, so that means we need to go ahead and just keep looking around. But if we do this, then we won't actually give us any, it won't give us any null value error as we go through this. I want to go ahead and break out this out hit right here. I'm going to right click on it and split that struct pin. This one's going to be very big. A lot of options here and what we can return from the hit that we get from the line trace. So first thing we want to do is we're going to do a grab component at location, okay, with the physics handle. Okay, you'll notice it gives a reference to the physics handle right there. From this list of things that we're going to get here, we want to grab the out hit component that we have here. This is the thing that we end up touching, and we're going to run that into the component right there. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to get the world location, which we should be able to get from out hit location right there. Okay. There's another way we can grab it if we have to. And what I want to say right now is that I am actually leaving something out that we're going to have to fix. Okay, and that's because I want you guys to kind of catch it as we go through here. Now, as is, technically in UE4, this would work as is. But we do need to add on something else so that whenever we move that object around that we want to try and hold on to, we want to have it move whenever we move our mice around. So this mouse control here for the camera input, we're going to add on a little bit more code. And what we're going to need is this bit of code right here that sent the that sent the line trace out in front of us. We're going to go ahead and do a copy of that. We'll bring it up here. Okay. And we're going to set a target location here. So I'm going to go ahead and move these over just a little bit. And we'll do set target location, and that'll be associated with the physics handle again. So we'll have that there. I want to bring this physics handle reference right to the middle because that will work for both of these. Now this is one where we can actually have it have the execution pins for either one of these mouse controls go straight into this one node. So you can't do that with all the nodes, but there are some that will allow you to run execution pins into those. And since this is our new location, we just want to know how far out it's going to be going, so we can bring that back in. There we are. Okay. Now, one thing about this, our line trace previously goes out to 300, and that means that whenever we push this out, it's going to go out to 300 for this one right here. I'm actually going to shrink it up just a little bit, about half, and that should keep it from going too far away from us. Okay, so everything we need is here. We should be able to pick these objects up. Go ahead and hit play. There we go. We're getting a nice setup there. And I'm able to pick this up, and it's not floating too far away from us. That's working just fine. Okay, so the sphere works. Now here's where the little problem with UE5 comes up. Okay, now I haven't let this thing go. Okay, now this isn't necessarily the problem. You can see that it's floating around me here. I have not coded in a drop. Okay, so what I need to do is go in here. I've got it pressed, so whenever I press this, it grabs it. Now I just need to go in here on the release on that left mouse button. I want it to release our physics handle. So we're going to release component right there. Okay, now this will work where I can pick up and drop the sphere. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and walk forward. I'm going to get a good lock on it. You'll see it kind of floats there in front of me. And now I can let it go. I'll let go of that. Now I'm going to try and pick up these blocks here. Well, I get a good hit, but they're not going to move. Now I'm going to show you a little trick in how I kind of figured this out. I'm going to nudge this block. Okay. And now that I nudged it, I'm able to pick it up. Okay. Now what I figured out is that whenever Unreal Engine has something that's not actively moving, it doesn't start really tracking it. It doesn't really make it into a rigid body so you can move it around. And that's just to kind of save on processing. So what we have to do to make sure you can pick up any of these things is that the moment we get a good line trace hit, we're going to do something called, we're going to wake up the rigid body. Okay. So what that's going to do, we just kind of drag these things over here to the side, and we're going to run off this true right here. We're going to wake, let's see, wake rigid body. Okay, now any of these are fine. We're actually not going to be messing with mesh or anything like that. We're going to take the out hit component right here. We're going to tie that into the target. So we're going to wake up the thing that we hit with the line trace. Okay, so now with that on there, we can pick up all these objects. Okay, so I don't have to do anything other than get a good click on this, and now I can move it around. Okay, now this one acts a little bit differently than, say, this cube right here. You'll notice it doesn't just kind of flop all over the place. Let me show you how I did that. Okay, so first thing, any of these things you need to pick up, you have to make sure that physics is turned on. So right now on this sphere right here, you'll see simulate physics is checked. If that's not checked, you can't pick anything up. So I'm going to leave that unchecked. So when we go in here and check that out, you can see what I'm talking about. Now this square, or this cube right here, actually has lock rotation on X, Y, and Z. Now it's just the rotation that's locked. It's not the position. If you lock up the position, you won't be able to move it out of that position. But that might also give you some ideas for possible puzzle mechanics. So if you lock it on Z, it won't be able to go up and down, but it will be able to move on the X and Y axis. Okay, same thing for the other two. Now I've locked all the rotation on this one, so as you pick it up, it stays where it's at. So that's going to make it a little easier to stack or move around or maybe slide into a spot where you need it to go. So back here on this one, I'm going to just lock up X and Y, so it'll spin on the Z whenever I pick it up. And remember, the sphere here, I have simulate physics turned off. So that means I shouldn't be able to pick that one up. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Okay. And I get a good hit on that sphere, but I cannot pick it up. And then let's go ahead and pick up this one. Okay, now notice it does allow Z to kind of spin, but it doesn't rotate on any of the other axes. Okay, so notice how I'm able to move this one around, and that will probably help you out a little bit in being able to pick something up, being able to set things down, and also get around some quirks that we're experiencing right now with UE5. I have no doubt that these things are gonna get fixed a little bit later on, but for right now, as it's still fairly new, this is a feature that they're trying to help out with processing, and I'm sure they'll get better with it. Okay, we'll have more on the way soon. Why don't you guys go ahead and see if you can use this physics grab in any way in your game, and we'll have more coming your way.